Hi Hannah!
Hi, Barbara.
So excited to see your face again.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see you. It's weird
How?
because the last time I saw you, we were in a bar drinking. I wish that that's how we could meet again.
Yes, it's so
Not
sad.
long.
It's been months, hasn't it? It's just
Mm.
like, oh, how are you? How are you keeping? How's your situation with everything?
I'm good, Like, it has been a really interesting ride. Like at the beginning of it, I didn't quite know how it was going to go. I had 4 clients at the time, and in the same day, I think 3 of them rang me and said, I can't work with you any longer. Like that's it. And just for the time being, and it's just like, oh my God, every time I came through to my husband, I was like, there's another one gone. And I was just like, what is this going to be like? What are we going to do? We were talking about like mortgage, holidays and stuff. Like it was just the most surreal time. And then um, we've just been really, really, really fortunate. I had 1 client left, and I ended up being able to have just enough hours with them to also look after our son. Um, and my husband had the same. So nearly all of his events that he runs were told that they were going to postpone or cancel. But he's had just enough work to have half a day. So we were plunged into a whole new routine, which was quite intense, but I'm still very thankful for it. We split our day, and I worked in the morning, and well, no, I think I worked in the afternoon, and Andy worked in the morning, and we just looked after our son, and gave ourselves an hour's lunch break, um, and planned out all of our evening meals so that we had something to look forward to. Um, so yeah, we've been okay, and we've I've had such an influx of interest. So now we're trying to navigate our way out of that and out of this wonderful little routine that we had. But we're like, well, what? How do we change our routine now? Like we've got such a little set thing. So yeah, I'm okay. How are
Yeah,
you?
yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. No, that's amazing. With your childcare before COVID, was it
Mm.
pretty much shared, or did you have more on your plate, or what sort of approach? Do you have childcare, or what sort of
Yeah,
approach do you?
we had our son in nursery 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Um, which yeah, just we had him into the very end to the last day we could have him in before all the nurseries were closed. And then it just all changed. And so he's been delighted with the situation. He's had his mum and dad entirely to himself for the last 3 months. Um, and this week, in fact, he just started back in the mornings, um, which was traumatic, but also great. Like it was good for him to hang out with other kids, and it was good for me to be able to like have a slightly slower work day where I'm not manically trying to get through everything
Mm.
before he wakes up or before I take over. So yeah.
Yeah, I did wonder how that it must be sort of a double-edged sword, because on one hand, I don't know if you get any more brain space or if that's just a myth, or and also no, but also yeah, it's obviously nice to see him go, but also sad, I guess, because you must have really enjoyed the time with him.
We really did, it was great. I mean, when when we were in the middle of everything and sharing childcare, I wouldn't say it was wonderful. I hear this a lot from people during this time. Like so many people had a really polarized sort of experience of like, this is wonderful, I'm getting to spend more time with my family, and this is awful, when can I see more people? And I think we weren't exempt from that. Like we loved spending more time with Blake. Like that was wonderful. And also these really small sort of blessings and learnings, like that I don't have to go out and do something fun with him out. I don't have to externalize my relationship with him. I could also make a tea party in our garden, and that was really wonderful. And that was actually, I don't know, sort of slightly shamefully a bit of a learning for me, that I could like enjoy him at home and didn't have to go out. But then the flip side of that was that everyone I saw on social media, and I mean, it's always the worst place to look, but everyone was like, I'm so bored, what am I going to do? And me and Andy were never so busy as these last 3 months. We have not had a moment, a breath to ourselves. Like every single minute of the day has been accounted for. And so for Blake to go back to nursery, that was the breather, was that I could like make myself a coffee.
Yeah.
And I could, God forbid, go outside and just do something for myself for a second. So that was a real, it's important, I think, working parents just have like a bit of a moment. Yeah.
Well, also with the added complication that you're both self-employed, you know, you're, I mean, in my household, my household, there's no child yet. So I was sort of a bit, so I guess I'm trying to empathize and put myself in those shoes, but I just can't, because I don't think I can have ever experienced the level of extreme kids 24/7. I've not been there, not got that t-shirt yet, but yeah. And then on the other hand, also, I'm self-employed, but my other half is in a very secure job, worked throughout the pandemic from home. So we haven't had that financial scare. Although I have to say, we did have that financial scare last year, and we've just got used to being broke all the time, basically.
Yeah.
So, but for you both to have that must have been, I mean, for me just to have that a year ago was actually quite traumatic, but for the two of you to go through that together and going, holy shit, and government being that.
No, it was awful, because there was no support for our situation. If things had gone completely tits up, there was no support for us, because we're both directors of our own very small business. So we didn't even have access to the because we're not actually strictly self-employed, we're employed by our own business, which actually is the complete grey area. So we couldn't have claimed even self-employed money.
No. Same here. I actually, the majority of people I know have a limited company and are single directors. And if you look at their books, they're more comparable with a sole trader. But because of the type of work we do, you know, events, social media marketing, that's what, you know, it's I still find it mad. It's a shame, because the people that are affected are mostly people that have real ambition and have now sort of been slowed down because of that. If that makes sense, I feel. But then,
no, absolutely. It was. I mean, we've really counted our lucky stars. We've just been really thankful for the little work we did have. Absolutely, it's been a complete nightmare for some of my friends that are self-employed or have their own limited companies. And I agree, they're normally the most ambitious people.
Well, who knows? Maybe someone listens to this. Change it. For goodness sake. But so other than the finances, which put that to one side, what's been your like sort of biggest learning throughout from this period? From, if you think back to I don't know when we saw each other, January maybe. Oh no, it was before Christmas, wasn't it? The eggnog one. So we were all having fun, drinking cocktails, not knowing what was on the horizon for this year. What do you think's changed from then to now in terms of your personal learning and insight?
I think I've learned that I did, before all of this, I worked 3 days, because they were the days that Blake was at nursery. And because of how things worked, I have found that it's been really valuable actually working a little bit every day, rather than a full day and then having these days off. Because in my line of work, like, there are no days off. There's always someone that wants to post something or ask you a question about something, but which actually ends up making me feel like historically within my job, quite overwhelmed, quite stressed sometimes. I'm just like, when can I turn this off? So it's been actually quite good just to get a little bit done every day, and that's been a real learning. Like, if I can manage to make it work like that somehow in the future, then I think I will. And also that it's really important for me to have some time every day for myself, and that has felt like such a self-indulgent thing to say since I had Blake, and even before it. But I've always known that about myself. Like, I need like light and shade within my time and my day, and I think this has really highlighted it. Like, it's that I just need an hour, even an hour, to do something I personally want to do. And I think I'm going to go forward with that. And actually, I'm not to talk too much for my husband, but he's had that learning too, and he's never really felt that need. But during COVID, he saw it with me. He was like, okay, this really makes a difference to my day, just having an hour to myself. And it's not lunch break, by the way, because I think lunch break, you stop anyway for lunch. Like, so we're maybe talking about an hour and a half. And then, but I think then you need like an hour where you can just indulge in something that is important to you, or even not important to you, but just like your downtime.
It's just it's a bit calm in your day, isn't it? When just to even just slow down your brain for a bit, or distract it from everything else that's going on. Because I relate to that, because I feel like if my brain just keeps, I don't know, I was sitting in my garden, and it's a weekend, so we're sitting in the garden in the sunshine, and Nick was like, what are you thinking about? I said, what do you mean? I was like, I can see your eyes fluttering all over the place. What plans are you hatching? And honestly, I was like, yeah, the fence needs like painting, and we should do this, and we should, and then when we do this, we could do that. And then and he's like, oh, will you just shut up for a moment? just relax. I was like, yeah, okay, maybe switch off.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's really important to do something creative, because then it actually physically takes you out of that planning or have to do things or mental list making. Like, I think it's like, for me, it's been gardening throughout this time, like such a COVID cliche, but like, it's been really important to me, like just having some time out where, and even like not listening to podcasts, not listening to music, not having anything on in the background, because I think all of those can keep charging your brain out, and then just no digital detox whatsoever. So actually just like, that sounds so hippie, but like listening to the birds and just having half an hour of complete peace has been really good.
I love that, digital detox. That's definitely has to be a campaign there, Hannah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of, for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure of meeting you and doesn't know what you do, next to being an awesome mum, which we all can see on Instagram, by the way, I love your little boy. But what is it? How would you describe what it is that you do, and who do you work with, and so
on? So it changes a lot. I mean, I call myself, like, when people ask, I say like that I'm a brand consultant, but then that always comes across wrong because people just don't get it. So like, I started in social media. Well, a long time ago, I started in digital marketing, but then I saw that everything was moving towards social media at the company I was working at, which was Liberty, and I really jumped on the opportunity to take over their social channels, and it was this huge learning. And while I was there, because you're like dealing with so many people that want a bit of the social channel and want to be talked about, I had found that I ended up sort of doing mini consultancy for all these brands, because it was like, well, sure, you want me to post that, but it's not really going to have any traction. So I ended up doing that, and I started getting freelance work offered to me. And then I was going to get married, so I decided I should go freelance, so I had a bit more time. And so I started off in social media freelance as a freelancer, planning people's feeds, planning their content, capturing content. And it's really evolved, because every brand I work with is so different that I end up being part of the brand creation and imagining, because I like to always say that social media doesn't happen in isolation. Like, people tend to think, oh, you just post some stuff, and it's like, well, what's the point? Like, literally, what's the point? Like, what are you trying to say? Where's your content calendar? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve here? What's your 5-year plan? So I end up normally with nearly every one of my clients writing a strategy for them, which always goes back to basics with what they're trying to achieve as a brand. And that often throws up a million questions of their look and feel, which I end up quite often helping them with. But it's always within the lens of social media. But then, because I've had experience in digital marketing, I tend to like bleed out into everything else that my clients do. So I help them with their website, sometimes their SEO, their influencer marketing, their events. So I'm a bit of an all-rounder, and it really depends. That sounds awful. I'm not an all-rounder. I end up being like working as an all-rounder. Such an all-rounder.
I know what you mean. I think we know exactly what you mean, because it doesn't matter how much of an expert you are in one field, you always end up having to look after everything else.
Exactly. And it's sometimes to my detriment, because I'm a bit like, sometimes I should just focus on social media because it's just a little bit easier. But so I've worked for all sorts of people, and at the moment I'm working for a Tuscan brand, funnily enough, because they were the only one that were able to keep me on throughout this time, which is crazy, because obviously what they went through in Italy. But I'm actually looking to have more local clients, because we just moved from London in August, and I thought I wanted to go back to London twice a week, but surprise, surprise, I actually just want to be in Norfolk all the time now. So, and I've had quite a few local brands contact me. So I'm considering whether I can start working towards that. But it tends to be luxury brands, skincare brands, food sometimes, furniture. It really has been a real mix, which is why there's no point sort of specialising.
No, absolutely. Well, I'm glad to hear you caught the Norfolk bug. Not going anywhere anymore.
Well, I'm from here originally, so didn't need that much persuading.
Great. We got to a point in our recording where I always ask, mostly because I'm just really nosy, I always like to know what other people read or engage with, podcasts, books, in terms of things that have shaped you or inspired you. And I'd normally also ask, what are you reading at the moment? But I don't think you will have had much time to engage with anything. So let's put gardening down as one thing, because that's I've
been learning a lot about gardening, and I've discovered an app which tells me what all my flowers are, so I can actually try and work out what I'm doing. So that's been really a good education, actually, and it's been something that I actually really aspired to before I had Blake, was learning what the flowers all are, because my mum does that. So I really wanted that. So that's been really nice, really inspirational.
What's the app called?
Picture This, I think, but there's quite a few of them. There's loads of them that you can take a photo of a plant and it tells you what they are. It's amazing.
Amazing. I'm gonna look that up, because
there's a birdsong one as well. You can listen to birdsong and it'll tell you which bird it is. I mean, I'm sounding like a hippie. I feel really rubbish with that question in a lot of ways, because I used to be into loads of things and I'm not at the moment, so I just don't have time. And even if I do have time, I'm like, I'm just going to really space out and watch a movie. I love movies, so me and my husband watch a million movies. I love cooking, so we cook a lot and we drink wine. There's some very mega interests there. I'm really inspired by, although I don't think it'll be that inspirational for you potentially, I'm just really inspired by like interior design, and like that was part of why we moved here. We bought a house that needs everything doing to it, so I spent a lot of my spare time researching what we're doing with each room, and finding suppliers and project managing the renovation of our house. And also we've got an Airbnb, and and that takes up an awful lot of my time, but it's also really inspirational because I've truly never marketed anything of my own. I've always marketed other people's things, so I haven't actually had to market our Airbnb yet. It's done really well, but almost annoyingly so, because I wanted to like do loads of good things and make it better, and I've not really needed to. So we are doing that this summer, and I'm spending some time looking into what we can do with that space to make it more interesting and have like some events there, supper clubs, even like showcasing local artists on the walls, because it's quite an interesting like white space to work with. Yeah, so they're the things that are inspiring me, but they don't really help anyone else. I'm sorry. I'll probably think of a million things after this that I can recommend, but I do read a lot of books, actually. I really do, but I cannot tell you for the life of me what's on my bed right now.
Honestly, don't worry, because you listed up quite a lot of things. I was like, oh my god, yeah, I wouldn't be able to listen to, and I'm sure you do, but obviously, I'm like, it may have also to do with, you know, where you are in your lifespan at the moment versus me, and I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, being a mum. It's more than a full-time job, and then you do have a job next to it, and you have an Airbnb, and you have an amazing garden, and you know, it does add up.
It does add up, and that's the thing. I think it's without making it too much about being a mum, like it's something that's very, very common to mums, is to feel like that you're guilty that you're not doing enough, and actually your plate's so full already that you have to sort of be kind to yourself. And it's what I'd say to a friend. I'd be like, oh, be kind to yourself, you've got a lot on. But I wish I could read more. I wish I could discover and learn more. I really have got such a passion for learning, but it's later down the line when he's at school.
Yeah. What films have you been watching?
What films have I been watching? Oh my goodness. Literally everything that we go on Netflix, Prime Video. We've literally got every single thing you can pay for. And Andy, my husband's always like, can we watch that one? And I'm like, no, I've watched it. So I literally I can't even tell you.
Do you watch series? Well, let me get to the chase. Have you watched Normal People?
Oh yeah, totally obsessed. Yeah, absolutely obsessed. And now I want to read the book, because I think there'll be so many more nuances in the book that I've missed in the film, missed in the series, even though I thought the series was very nuanced. I just know there's more to it.
Yeah, I needed like a day out on Sunday, and I just said to Nick, right, phone's away, you go away. I sent him out golfing. I said, just get out of my way. I just need like girl time. And I thought, oh, I'll start watching that. And it was like in the afternoon, and I did all 8 hours.
I don't blame you. It's absolutely captivating, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, I did have to shut the windows, because I had all the windows open. And then the sound effects kicked in. I was like, oh my god.
I'm sure people would be very interested, Barbara. They were like,
what's going on in there? But yeah, I've just ordered a book to read the book as well. Yeah. So because I can't get enough of it, and I've even been, it's so sad, I've been having the Spotify playlist of the music that because I thought that the music was actually quite impactful. So I've been listening to that whilst also working away. So
oh yeah, the Irish singer, I can't remember his name on there, is beautiful, and we've been listening to his album. I can't remember his name, because both me and my husband are musicians, so we play a lot of music in the house. So I was really inspired actually by the Irish singer, which I've forgotten his name, but if you listen to the album that is related to the singer, I think you'll love that. I mean, everyone should love that. It's really beautiful.
I'll look that up. Irish singer, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
You're a musician. Kept that quiet.
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That was what I wanted to do originally. But, you know, life takes over. You should be able to see Andy's drum kit in the back, and then some guitars. This is our music room / office. Yeah, no, I was a singer in London for years, and I worked at Liberty as my part-time job, and then Liberty took over, and I sing now for the weddings of all my friends, and I've actually just started singing in Norwich just before all of this happened at the jazz club.
Cool.
Very quietly, just sort of snuck in there and did a few songs, and that was really nice. So I used to sing jazz professionally, and that was really fun. But yeah, that's another thing on my list of things that I want to get back into, and in fact it should be top of the list because it's one of the most important things for me.
Yeah, we share that, by the way.
Do we? What do you
Yeah.
sing? Do you sing?
Yes, I must admit I've kept it also. I tried to keep it quiet. Well, I sang in Switzerland, so I started doing plays and stuff from the age of 7, and then I went to the Swiss Musical Academy when I was a teen. Well, sort of early adult, really teen, and I studied there. So I used to do musicals.
Oh,
Yeah, but
I see that in you. I see
yeah.
that.
The only problem is I was really rubbish at dancing. So I was okay at the acting. The singing was really my thing. And then they put me in tap shoes, and I did not know what the hell I was doing.
I'd be with you on that. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I can't dance either.
So yeah, so I did that, and then I moved over to the UK, and I did a couple of auditions in the West End, and
Did you?
yeah,
What was
didn't
that
go
like?
very well. Gosh, it was at Pineapple Studios, and
Okay.
it was a shock to the system. I made it to 2, and then was like, oh my god, I really don't like this. So I became a nanny.
A nanny?
Yeah, just to start off, and then ended up obviously in Norwich, and I think actually looking back, it makes sense now that I'm in events, because when I was really young, we used to do, musicals and plays and stuff, and would go and promote them. And I would always be the ringleader to get everyone out and sort of sell tickets and get people to buy tickets. So it makes sense that I'm an event manager now.
Yeah, you're really good at that. You're really good at making people feel included and excited and motivated. Makes sense.
Oh, thank you. Let me blush. Um, yeah, but yeah, no, singing is not something I have done for a long time, and actually, I don't know how it would all work with the new tongue and all. So,
Yeah,
but it is on a list to even just go to a choir and just check it
yeah,
out, see if it still
yeah,
works.
absolutely. Well, maybe we should do that together. I've been looking actually very quickly about choirs in Norwich, about joining. So I was part of the London Contemporary Voices when I was in, just before I got pregnant, in fact, and loved it. Like really, really loved the experience of singing as a group. Yeah, it's amazing, and you meet more musicians as well, which is always a plus.
Absolutely. Right. So, time-wise, we've just got enough time to sneak in a random question out of my jar of questions.
Oh, good. Okay.
So, I just refilled this the other day. I do not take any responsibility for what I'm about to ask you. Right. Oh, okay. What one thing would significantly make your life better? I mean, the fact that you have to think for that long is a really good indication that there's nothing else required.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is, isn't it? No, I do feel very thankful generally in life, like, and I always try and tell myself to feel quite grateful for things. Like, I don't know really. Um,
I think I could do without COVID.
mm,
That's about it.
yeah, yeah. I think probably I would agree with you. I think if I could take the stress away from my mother in particular about COVID, that would really change my life, because we spend a lot of time together. She helps me with Blake, and she can't really at the moment because she's so worried about him passing it on from nursery and things. So it's and it's not even the fact that therefore like impacts me selfishly, is that I worry about the stress sitting on her, and the stress that sits on all of us associated to it. I don't know about you, but I was so sleepy at the beginning of this whole COVID thing. Then I read that everyone was struggling with that. And we were also tired because of just underlying stress, just this like low-lying anxiety under all of our lives. And I think it's still there, and it's quite pervasive. And I think if I could take that away from people, I think everyone would feel so much better.
Mm. Oh, that's a lovely thing to say. I agree with you. My experience was really different, in the sense that when it all first kicked off, I was really relaxed about it. I was really like, yeah, that's all right. And I think it's because of what happened last year, and all the pain that people were going through. I felt for people because I knew what they were going through, in the sense that, yeah, I know what it feels like when the floor gets taken away from you, and suddenly having to think like where the very basic things in life come from, like how I'm gonna pay the rent or feed myself, and whilst having to deal with everything else. But anxiety crept in later on for me, and mine was massively triggered by I don't want to say the media, because that doesn't seem right, but by the responses of people in leadership. Because I was a bit like confused or not very clear about what the direction was. And
I agree.
yeah, and that really scared me, and then I had to stop watching the media.
Yeah. I think apart from you obviously having a really traumatic time last year, like I think my approach was very similar to yours, in that I was cautious, and I was more cautious than a lot of my friends. I was like, we need to get a food shop in. I think this is going much worse. This is going to get really bad. But I was actually quite calm about it. But I don't think I realised the underlying stress that was just sort of sitting there underneath things. And I had the same reaction to the media. My husband had to just be like, you need to turn it off. Like I think consumption can sometimes make you feel better, because you're just like, I just want to know everything, so I'm armed with the information. And then it gets to a point where it's like, well, it's not going to change the here and now. Like, it's not going to change your day-to-day movement. So you have to like just get your food shop in. You have to deal with the very, very basic needs of your family, and everything else will fall into place. And in fact, you don't need to know the death rates in France today. You don't need to know it. Like, you just can let that go for now.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I was very naive at the beginning of all of this. We were in Switzerland in February. As we were in Switzerland, it had crossed over from Italy into Switzerland. The day we left Switzerland, basically they went into a mini lockdown version, and that then got expanded. And then I was very much like, oh, they're overreacting, da 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 da. And it was only with hindsight that I realised I was reading the wrong news. I was reading the wrong things. I was taking my sources weren't checked, which I felt really stupid about, because I always go on about check your sources. But yeah, that's just how it was. But I said one thing to a mate, just as this was all kicking off, and he asked me, "Do you think anything good will come out of this?" And I said, "Yeah, this will be a massive shining light on all on bad leaderships on all levels of life, from your boss, from your community, and then all the way up to, you know, world leadership and stuff like that. Like, bad leadership will, you know, you can't hide behind it something anymore. If you don't do your job properly and lead, people are going to notice. And I have a feeling we're starting to see that now unravel a bit.
I hope that's true. I don't know. Let's not get too political, because I'm quite frustrated with the whole thing at the moment. I'm not sure that they're dealing with it very well, and it's all being very underplayed.
But I mean that not just on the big stuff and the political stuff, but like on the small local things as well. So we have it, for example, you know, you could take the example of a football club and how that's being run, and how are the communications flowing from the board to the coaches, how they're implementing change. Is it happening?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So that's what I find. That's why I find this a very interesting time. That's the one bit of glimpse that I go like, let's see what there is, you know.
Yeah, it's true. I think the stakes are higher, right? So, you know, we're all like needing to not necessarily get things right, but there's less wriggle room for like spending money willy-nilly and being like, let's just see what happens. Everything's tighter, I think. You know, I agree. Yeah.
And it's a bit of I don't know what you were doing back with the recession, but it's almost like it feels like we had a test run then, and now it's like just tightened again. I don't necessarily, well, it's definitely not a good thing, but on some levels it's also not all bad. So to get rid of waste and stuff, or not be wasteful, shall we say.
And to be entrepreneurial. Like, one of my really good friends just completely changed her entire business model through this time, and she's done so well, and I'm just so proud of her. Like, it's just like you really sort the wheat from the chaff in a lot of ways in business as well. And this that sounds really tough, actually, because some people have had that taken from them, and it's not their fault, but you do see that people really rise when and see an opportunity and seize it, and that's really important.
That's really true, and actually you touch a really good point there. This is such a complicated situation that actually one rule doesn't apply to everybody.
No.
It doesn't. It's just so individual, and every experience that we're having with COVID, you know, the experiences that you've had and that I've had are so different from each other, that I just hope that we can still all find back together and sort of still have that sense of support for each other.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say that, actually. I think the one thing that everyone has gained from this is that kindness goes a long way, even in business, and also amazing customer service. Like, everyone just has to step up. Like, I just don't think people can afford to be bad with their customer service anymore. Like, people just go elsewhere. Like, there are more willing businesses that will go the extra mile for you. Like, don't be grumpy.
What a perfect note to finish on.
Yeah, don't be grumpy. There we go.
I did say, I posted earlier about how excited I was to catch up with you. I said I was going to pour myself a gin and tonic, which obviously there's no gin and tonic here, because I completely forgot that I am going to football training tonight for the first time in a year and a half. So turning up all ginned up was probably not the best idea.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting football match. You have to do it afterwards.
Absolutely. But I'm hoping that we can share one of these very soon.
I hope so. That would be lovely.
And it's been so lovely to catch up with you. Thank you for sharing your story and your insight. And
thanks for asking.
Of course, Hannah. Of course. And I'll see you with cocktail in hand soon.
Yes, please.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.